profits. What is going to be my profit at the end of production? Am I going, what are your aims? For instance, you're aiming at 10% increment, 20, 30, 40. So the environment also tells you what to plant. For instance, in an environment where tomatoes is the key crop, and you in the environment you went on as a farmer planting sweet corn, definitely you need to know your environment, what your environment wants, what the environment needs. So those are the things you need to know in planning, when planning your dry season production. The next topic is what to plant. So in choosing what to plant, you need to investigate vegetables preferred in the market, like the last point I just raised in environment. What your market will accept, what you produce without regretting producing it. What you ought to know about this is you need to do your market survey. Visibility studies is also inquired in this place. You need to go to the market. What are the things the markets want? From there, you get to know how you plan. If the markets want tomatoes, for instance, you wouldn't plant pepper. You need to know, okay, this is what I'm going to plant to make a good margin, because it should be a profit venture in dry season. Dry season, it's hot dry season, it's a season where most of our farmers find it difficult in producing. So these are the things you need to know before embarking on this production. The next step is knowing if the area is a lowland or a highland area. This will guide you in choosing a variety to be planted. For instance, you are in a lowland area. In East-West seed, we have varieties that fits in for lowland and also have that fits in for highland. So in your area of knowledge, when you know your area very well, you will be able to decide on what to plant. So the next point is learning different families of vegetables. This, you ought to know what you want. Knowing your vegetables very well will let you guide you against not to go astray. This, for instance, we have the solanaceous, we have the cucurbits, we also have the leguminous as well. So doing this, by knowing all this, you will have the plan and also know what exactly the family of what to plant. The next slide is decide the kind of seed to be planted. In this case, deciding the seed to be planted is whether the seed is hybrid or OP. As we all know, planting in the hot dry season, it's challenging. It's faced with a lot of challenges. Insect challenges, insect pests. A lot of this we need to know before planting. Going for OP varieties in this kind of season, you know what you're going to face or you're going to encounter. This will now take me to getting a good and a reliable company to get your seeds from. The last point on this slide is choosing the best variety suited for the season. Like I said earlier, in East-West seed, there are different varieties for different seasons. For instance, we have Padma for raining season, and as well, we have Diva for tomatoes for raining season. And for the dry season, we also preach Platinum F1 for the dry season. So this, haven't you known your vegetable, you know your area, the different families of vegetables, the kinds of seed to be planted, and the best variety to be planted, suited for the season. So this, you will know what and where to get your seeds or your varieties to be planted. So the next slide is choosing what vegetable to be planted. This is just trying to tell us on the elevation, be it low elevation, mid elevation, and high elevation. This I've explained earlier on that there are some varieties or there are some crops that are suited for the low elevation, the mid elevation, and the high elevation. By knowing your area very well, you know that, okay, this is the best and what to plant on my land. So the varieties, east-west varieties to be planted for this dry season, we are looking at tomatoes, which is the Solanaceous family. We have the Platinum F1. Platinum F1, we all know the prospects of Platinum F1, that it's good, it's a bit its resistance to heat stress. It can withstand to some extent the stress of the heat. Also for cucumbers, we have the US lizers and the orientals. The US lizers are the dark green cucumbers. Cucumbers are different because we have that from in the southwest and the north. They prefer more of the dark green, which is the US lizers, and as well in the the southeast, most of the production of cucumber is the orientals, which are the light green. So in this segment, we have Syra, Nandini, and Cain. While in the US lizers, we have the Gringo, Mona Lisa, and the Dewi as well. Dewi falls between the two segments. It's a bit dark green and also light. It depends on the timing and also depends on the environment. And for watermelon, we know the sweet sangria. As the name implies, sweet. The sweet sangria, it's a variety that's good for the dry season. It's also good for rainy season because it's a bit resistant to foliar diseases when planted early to the onset of rain and to the last end of rainfall. Sweet sangria, it's very sweet. The bricks ranges from 13 to 14.5. The bricks simply means the sweetness of the product. And the last but not the least on this slide is Ma'a, which is an hybrid. As you can all see from these varieties, they are all hybrids because of the challenges you're going to face. So we preach hybrid for this season. For okra, as we all know, dry season, it's an off season for okra. Whenever you plan your product very well in this season, believe you me, you can have a lot of money growing all these varieties from east to west. Let me just explain a bit on the timing of planting, which is the off season. The time of planting vegetables when the supply is low and the demand is high. That is the off season, and in doing or in producing at such time, you can have a lot of money. So the next slide we'll be looking at is this is just like raising our eyebrows to this. For tomato, I'm taking it crop by crop. For tomatoes, in this dry season, I can assure you when you do or when you plant Platinum F1, your yield, the potential yield ranges from 30 tons to 75 tons. People that have been doing that can attest to it. A colleague here after this can also say which is doing that in the Southwest. We also share his success stories. Some farmers as well, if time permits, we can as well ask them to give us their success stories. Looking at this yield, potential yield, when you have your cost of production and your revenue after your production, I can assure under good management, under this 30 to 75 tons, your ROI can be as high as 200 to 300% from your production cost. And when I said under good management, it implies all the agronomic practices, good seeds, which is the Platinum, good practices in terms of fertilization, in terms of watering, in terms of pests and disease control. This will give you what is on the screen, which is the 30 to 75 tons. And as well, when your management practices are bad, you can as well get 0. So we need to know our practices before embarking on this production, this dry season production. The next point is the potential yield for Gringo ranges also from 120 tons to 170 tons. By this, going by this, your ROI or your yield per plant can as well be as 4.5 kg per plant. When you multiply that by the numbers you have per hectare, definitely you believe what I stated here, it's really correct, both in the dry season and in the wet season. But looking at the yield for looking at the demand in the dry season, and most of farmers withdrawing back from the production, from the season because of the challenges, we give all our farmers that we key into this hedge in having a good profit. The next one is the Syra, which is the Oriental type for my customers in the Southeast and in the South producing the Orientals. This is a good news for us in dry season. Looking at this under good agronomic practices, we can have this yield. So also for sweet sangria, looking at the challenges like other crops, the water, the fertilization, and pest management, that was especially the insect pests. That's what most of our farmers run or shy away from. But under good agronomic practice, under good management, you can have this potential yield for sweet sangria. And the bricks in this season can also be increased or will increase based on the season we have. Last but not the least on this slide is the okra. Looking at okra now, the survey being done under okra for raining season. A 10 kg of okra goes for 4 to 6,000 naira. But in this dry season, as we speak today, and in the coming days or in the coming weeks, it keeps increasing. The price as at today is around 10 to 12,000 naira for 10 kg. So also it keeps increasing before the raining season commences. So we need to key into this season for us to have a maximum profit. So when to plant? The month to plant is basically from January down to February, then March. This, when you do your calculation, it's like I said earlier on in the planning, you need to know when you plant by January, when will you be transplanting, and at what stage will you be when will you be harvesting? What will the market be saying then? So these are the things you need to consider in planning for your dry season. So also in February, we have it's a good time to sow or to plant our vegetables. All these crops can be planted, or all the varieties can be planted this time. So also in March, we all know the trend of vegetable markets. Planting February, you'll be harvesting around May, June, for instance, in tomatoes. Tomatoes that you'll be harvesting around May, April, you know the cost. A basket can be as high as 15 to 35,000 naira. For now, tomatoes it's very in the north, most especially it's very, very cheap now. So planting in February, March will give you double or even triple your cost of production. So we need to know when to plant and why are we planting at the time. So this also takes us to the last topic, where to plant. I know some might find it funny that why is this topic? Some might say, okay, it's a good topic, but to me, it's a very nice topic which we need to discuss about where to plant. Where to plant, we can plant both in the open field and as well in the greenhouse. It's not necessarily we have our plants, okay, because I can't control pests, I can't manage insect pests, so I don't need to plant. So you need to know where do you plant. Location matters in terms of close to road network, accessibility, water source. This, I believe we are not new to it. So this, I think, brings me to the end, and I will hand over to my colleague, Damilola Aditola, which will be sharing us some experience on the production he had in Southwest and some experience he had in growing our varieties in the dry season. Thank you.
All right, so wonderful evening to all our farmers out there, and I'm very sure you are planning for this season judiciously, right? So I'll just add one or two things about the slide my colleague presented in course of this webinar, right? Just to do emphasize on the basic need and facts, right, that he mentioned about your knowledge. You have to understand on each crop, understand the fact that you need to know the physiological process of every plant that you decide to grow, right, around this time. You're a farmer does not mean that you have the ability or skill or the environment likely where you are part-time can favor what we're talking about around that time. He was talking about the families, knowing the families of what to plant around a particular time, knowing the family. It's just to guide you, you know, for somebody that have been in the business for a very long time as a farmer. You have been planting tomatoes or cucumber for a very long time, right? The idea of knowing the family is just to know, to tell you how to rotate your crop per time, right? You cannot afford to be growing tomatoes season in, season out every year, right? Your yield per that area will be somewhatly and very low. And then you'll be having disease pressure, insect resistance to what the active or what you are spraying per time, right? You need to understand that fact around that time. Understand judiciously your crop rotation. It is very important, right? So I'll talk about the experience of the variety that we have here. Fantastic variety, right? We know for major part for us in the South, right? For farmers in the South, you know where these crops are very expensive, coming around and from April ending, going onward to maybe July. So if tomatoes is going to be expensive in April ending or May ending, going to July, you know when to plant, right? And that's the question that Abdul was raising. You have to have your calculation backward, and this is the time to plant, where for Southwest farmer, when the Northern farmer are stopping operation, and for the Northern farmer, there's nothing stopping you to stop operation or planting around West season. I know the challenge, maybe you are stuck with BW that you are not used to, right? Maybe the disease pressure during the rainy season, and the variety solution we have, right? He has mentioned Padma, Diva in the West season, right? You can't go wrong, right? And Platinum, you can go around the season, right? Around the season emphasis, right? Where you can have them, but you can take advantage of the big sizes of fruits, right? Both in dry season, in wet season and the cold dry season, using Diva and Padma, right? In those segments. But now, when you want to plant now, please, we beg you, don't plant Padma or Diva now when you are planting, except you are planning to plant maybe towards onset of rain, that's towards March, maybe in the North April, as the case may be. That's when you can, we advise you to please plant either Padma or Diva. But now, please, you can't go wrong with Platinum. And why? It does not far-fetched. It has resistance, as mentioned, is stress, right? Resistance with its TYCLV caused by the suckling insect, the aphids, the whitefly, and then thrips, right? Or any suckling insect that you can really talk about, right? It is resistant to all those, and they will not have that disease, right? And the question is, if you have used anti-malaria, will you go and sleep where there's mosquito? The answer is no. So because it's resistant does not mean that you will not spray or take care of the plant, the variety rather, around the time where we tell you that it is very, I'm rushing because of the time, right? We don't want to keep you waiting, right? For Gringo, for farmers, is the time, right? I sold Gringo towards December and early January for about 13,000 naira per bag in my 12 market. And I know people that have harvesting cucumber around that time, right? You know the cost of the price, right? So going back, vis-a-vis the cost of your production, you know it varies from one region to the other. All right. So it varies from one region to another, right? Where the cost of land preparation in the north is quite cheaper from the south. So we cannot generally tell you how much your land preparation will cost. But if you're in business for a very long time, we take advantage of having a consultant to ask questions. And if a consultant is very, very magnificent in his own way, it might be very free for you, giving his own data, right? For you to be able to plant, right? Plan rather. For Swiss Angria, where you have major challenge to grow watermelon is in the wet season, right? And very, very tricky to grow even in the dry season because of the virulent insect that's the insect that give you. But when you plant this guy and you take care of it, you can't go wrong. And the challenge maybe is subscribe and the solution. Go and check people that are. The narrative of the market has been changed over a while. We have not stopped talking about how sweet the watermelon that has scribe is more sweeter than the Kaolack type, but yet we still have the one that you can still even place in that segment, talking about Mikili Plus variety of our watermelon. You can't go wrong when you plant both. But you have, when you want to play differently, right? Everybody's growing Kaolack, the light green watermelon, right? Everybody, few people is growing the one that has scribe, that's the Kampala type, the Swiss Anglia type, right? So you have a different market, the different, don't let me say different market, different controlling and price, the value of your product. When everybody is pricing the one of light green, they have options, right? They have options of growing any type of watermelon that is light green around that time. But to your own product, it's just the light, the scribe kind of watermelon. You can't go wrong. It can't take you a very long time to sell comparing to the open, watermelon have a window, right? When you miss the window, you likely not be able to plant again, maybe in the heavy kind of rain or when the weather is too harsh, right? You have a window and the window is now, right? Window is now, we are planning, you plan towards February, mid-February to, right? Mid-February towards the onset of rain, then maybe in the big part of the rain, before the rain is more heavy, that you likely not be able to plant watermelon again. Then he has talked about the yield. You can't go wrong about the yield. Yeah, you can't go wrong about the yield. The minimum you can go on is about around 30. Around 30. Okay, the minimum you can go wrong that you can grow around that time is even if you don't really try, or is around 30 tons, and you can check the price of what tomatoes is talking about, divide the crate of tomatoes, maybe it's 30 kg per crate, divided by 30 tons, you can look around how many crates you are looking around. That's 1,000 crates. Check the price, check the cost of your production. You can see talking about 200% or 300% return on investment is not overemphasizing. Is what we get, is what other farmers get around the field. So thank you very much for listening to us. And we hope we know we'll get more feedback and question. Then I think we'll be ready for it to answer if need be. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dami and Abdul. Thank you for your presentation. We already have a few questions in the chat, but before we go into the question and answer session, I'd like us to just take a short presentation from Hadiza Yaro on the available East-West seeds that are in Nigeria. Mrs. Hadiza Yaro is an agronomist and marketer involved in the market and rural development, agribusiness and project management. She is the country manager of East-West Seed, Nigeria. Hadiza, please. If we have any questions, we can please send them via chat so that we can take everything together after Hadiza's presentation. Thank you.
Okay, good day, viewers and listeners. Please, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can. We can see
Okay.
half of your screen. Okay.
Okay, I'm sure you should see better now.
Yes.
Okay, I have a very short presentation on available stock of East-West seed on ground. Sometimes before the end of the year, we were stocked out for some of our top hot selling cake varieties, and farmers weren't happy. So I think I have good news to our farmers in Nigeria, because we are here with a lot of seeds to start the year with, meaning as you start the dry season, you wouldn't run out of stock for varieties. Top on the list, we always talk about Ringo, and a lot of farmers have reached out to me. Ringo is not available. So aside Ringo, there are many other varieties in our portfolio. I'll just talk about the crops and then the varieties that we have. So for tomato, we have the popular Platinum F1, which my colleagues have already elaborated about. We have Diva F1, Padma F1, and Nirvana F1 for the highland areas. We wouldn't be able to contain all the varieties, like I mentioned. These are new varieties that have just arrived. But of course, we know tomato, we have the popular Larissa F1, which is the greenhouse variety. For the cucumber, last year we launched a new product called the Dewi F1. It's one of the favorite of the farmers because of its size and the looks. It's really beautiful. Dewi is on ground. Last year, there was a lot of cry on Dewi. We also have Gringo F1, like I said. Aside that, for the Orientals, we have Syra F1 and Nandini F1. Talking about cabbages, I think cabbage, I can beat my chest to say we have one of the world-leading varieties. If you talk about Nuzaka and Pasque F1, the head is very big. Get me a cabbage, let me see. The head is very big. And then there's one unique thing. Can you still see my screen? Because it tripped off. Hello?
No, we can't.
You can, okay. Let me share again because I noticed it tripped off. Okay, I'm back. Right. So the head is very big. We will be sending out videos very soon, and you will see how big the head is in the field. And I'm lucky to have one with me right here. I'm sure you can see. This will weigh about 3 kilos. And you know, this is a good news to farmers. When you hold it in your hand, you can actually feel the weight and pressure in your hand. And if you cut in, you will discover that the inside has a very good core forming. Some cabbages, I know when I buy from the market, sometimes it's like sponge, right? It's not even crispy, it's somehow leathery. So our cabbage varieties are fantastic. And impressively, I have a colleague that actually planted it somewhere in Calabar, and I was also amazed that it survived very well. So we have Pasque, we have Nozaka, but then Indica, it's for the highlands, the Jos Plateau, or the cold dry season. We know in the north, we have the Harmattan. So sometimes in October, November, when you plant, at about 70 to 75 days, you should be able to take out your variety to the market for selling. Kifaro F1 is typically the red type. We've seen it perform excellently from the north to south to east and west, but then most people are familiar with the green cabbage. But then of course, I can tell you, we are one of the only company that has this red cabbage in the market in Nigeria. So talking about onion, we have very good varieties, both for the wet and dry season. In the main season, cold dry season, everything goes. You can do Prema, you can do Super Yali, you can do Deo. For long storage, Deo is a very good variety. It can stay about 8 months in storage without going bad. But then Prema is unique and is dear to our heart because this variety performs excellently in the wet season. And we had a project in Sokoto sponsored by the French government last season. And the farmers were actually smiling, and we did a quick analysis where 2 cans that the farmers bought, which is barely below 8,000 or 9,000 or thereby, the farmers were able to harvest 2 bags of onion. And at that period, guess how much is a bag of onion? 75,000. And these farmers were smiling to the bank. Then on the hot pepper, we have the piquante red, piquante yellow. We have the spicy F1. These are typical of the habanero types. I can tell you it's really, really spicy and aromatic. Then if you're in love with pepper, somebody's background is. Okay, great. So for the chili pepper, we have a variety, even though you might like, oh, what name is it? But of course, it rings a bell into your head to connote that this variety is very hot. That's Demon F1. For the portfolio of the sweet pepper, we have the red, the green, and then we have the green tone yellow. These are the typical blocky types of sweet pepper, and we call it a traffic light. The red means stop, the yellow means ready, and the green means go. So these are the traffic lights we have in East West. And in that particular portfolio, we have the Marvel. Marvel is a conical type, which is more or less like the Tatache, not like the blocky type sweet pepper. Going down, we have the watermelon, the sweet sangria F1. This is like a tiger or a zebra. You might choose to call it anything, but then it comes with the stripes, right? It comes with the stripes on it. So it's a fantastic variety because we've run a lot of promotion and people will eat and be like, do you have sugar in it? I think I have a sample of it, of the sweet sangria. I'll get it to you. And then it's unique to us because we've had the cowlac types, if you're familiar with your segmentation for watermelon, which is without the stripes. And then I think for the consumers, it's really difficult for you to see a watermelon and determine how the inside is. So we want to come up with a very unique variety where if you see it, you know that you're buying a premium product and you will not get it wrong because it's unique. But if I give you the cowlac types from whatever company from East West State, is really difficult to identify. So with me is the sweet sangria F1. You can see it has the stripes. So if you go into the market and you see this, you're sure that you're buying a premium product and you can be assured that the in quality is very good. Than buying the cowlac type, you wouldn't know, is it a local variety? Is it farmer safe seed? Is it company A, company B? You don't know. But seeing this is a mark of what? East West seed. So this is sweet sangria F1. Then going further, we look at our latest variety. We have the Rapido, that is the loose leaves. And then we have the Maruli, which is the typical ice bath varieties. Then talking about the miscellaneous not because they are not important in the portfolio, but we use the classification as miscellaneous because they are either 1 or 2. Sweet corn is selling hot in the market. East West Seed is the first company to introduce sweet corn in Nigeria. And we have a mark, that is a Sugar King F1, which is the king of all sweet corn across the world. So you can try that variety. It could be the dry season, it could be the raining season. It performs excellently. And I guess if you try Sugar King F1, just eat it once. You will never eat the chicken corn. That is the one you see on the road. We call it chicken corn because ideally it's for industrial processing. Because if you go into developed countries, you wouldn't see people eating that. You will see people actually eating sweet corn because of its palatability. Then for papaya, we have Maradona F1. If you love football, you know who Maradona is. He cannot be dribbled, right? So for our papaya, no papaya can be dribbled if you compare it with ours. Then looking at the okra, before now we had the Basanti F1, that is typical of the lady fingers. And then now we have Maha, but there's a good traction for Maha. But then I have a good news for our listeners today because we are coming up with a typical West African okra that is really, really slimy, short in nature. And I think when you try this variety, you will come back for more. I don't have it here because it's not on our import list. But then before we go into the market, you know how East-West seed work. We don't just dump seeds on our farmers. We do research year in, year out, trying to understand adaptability, trying to understand how our farmers are able to like these varieties. We try to work with them to understand if they like it. And then not just the farmers, we also consider our consumers, the end user. What is their preferred traits? And then at the end of the day, we came out with this fantastic okra variety that we have named. So this variety will be launched in the market this year by God's grace, alongside with the Shombo. I have a lot of customers on my neck. When will it come? When will it come? But then we have a standard procedure where we have to do the screening, where we have to do the launching, where we have to even do the seed production before you get it right at your doorstep. Last but not the least on our arrival item is carrot. We have Therma. So I think I have exhausted our new arrivals. Paraventure, you know somebody that has been in search of these varieties, or probably you seated listening or watching, please extend my good news to Nigerian farmers. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Hadiza. Thank you very much. I think we'll just go into the question and answer session because of time. And there are two questions relating to one. So I'll take that one first. And Michael Ajiboye asked, on what space of land is the potential yield of tomato to be 30 to 75 tons? And on the same question, we have Mrs. Joda asking how many packets of seeds is required to be planted for the same yield, 30 to 75 tons of the platinum.
Okay, just a quick one. We have a world standard. When we talk about potential yield, is expressed on a hectare base. So probably it's an oversight because not everybody is familiar with units. So the yield there is expressed on 1 hectare. Then the next question talking about the number of packs. Sometimes it's really difficult, right? When farmers ask me, how many packs do I need? I can just give you a plus or minus idea what you need, but it might not be perfect because it's tied to so many factors. Number one, your ability to raise nursery, good quality nursery, because I can give 2 farmers 1 pack each of the same seeds and I end up with different number of seedlings. Another factor is your spacing. I don't know your spacing, right? So if you space closer, it means you need more plants. And we advise that only in the dry season. And in the wet season, you need to space more for aeration. So plus or minus, we're looking at almost 26,000 plants. And then we give a range sometimes because the farmers might not be too good in handling the seeds. We say, okay, you can plant maybe 120 grams. And each of those packs comes in either 5 grams or 10 grams. So when you say pack is not an indication of size. So let us know on what scale are you talking about? What type of packs are you buying? Then that helps now to make that calculation to say so pack. But a quick indication, I'll always advise farmer, please work on a scale. You can say, okay, 100 grams on a hectare. Then it's up to you to check the pack size to know if you're doing 100 grams of 10 grams, then you need 10 packs. But if you're doing 100 grams or 5 grams, you will need twice the number. That is what? 20 packs. So I think farmers should be able to get acquainted with some of these skills. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hadiza. There's a question from Bemi Adiola of Dibus Farms. What can we use to reduce pests this season? You are muted.
Sorry, I was saying I'll hand over to Dami to answer that question. And it's escaped my memory. I have about 10 people at my background in this meeting. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, so thank you very much. So ideally, what we tell farmers to reduce resistance, to reduce toxic element and what people consume, right? The last thing you should consider, though the most important thing is the chemicals, right? Starting from your land preparation to your crop rotation, very, very important for you to be able to think about managing pests on your farm, right? So maybe if you don't do all these processes very well before you consider planting, you might have it tricky, right? You might do yours, but your neighbors, the neighboring farmer close to you might not do theirs. Does not mean that even though you fence your farm, the guy will still come to your farm and they'll come and enjoy, right? So it's very, very tricky. Understanding if you are using, we call it IPM, Integrated Pest Management, is the best approach that you can think of to really manage pests in your farm, right? And it's not only inclusive to only chemicals. Please don't get it twisted. It's starting from cultural control method. If you put it in place, you think about biological, well, we are not too that friendly with it here in the nation, but it's still very important, right? Having to scout some insects, not all insects you need to kill on your farm. You need to do that. It's not a seminar to talk about IPM. IPM is like forever, right? New research upon research. So I really don't want to dwell only on chemicals to really know about, but no certain active, right? You can visit our website, our Grow Out website. It will be rolled out maybe later. Grow Out. You can type East West Grow Out on your Google. There's going to pop out. You can see a technical guide, crop guide on each crop. Know the important pests of each crop. Then you know the chemical active. Then after you know the chemical active, then you go to a buy from a reputable brand. I mean company. Don't just go and buy a company that you don't know their brand, right? Yes, don't just go and buy a reputable, anyhow brand from the market, right? Thinking that you have sprayed a lot of adulterated products in the market where you can't even trace. But please buy from a reputable brand like us, right? You can have them and you will not go wrong. So talking about the Grow Out is being produced by our knowledge transfer arm of the companies. Is an NGO, you can, but it's not 100% perfect, but at least it's a foundation where you need to know what to do and how to do it. You can go there. Thank you very much, right?
Thank you so much, Dami. Thank you for that. Before we take the next question, I'd like to recognize Mr. Rutger Groot. Mr. Groot is a member of the Supervisory Board of East West Seed International, and he's the current chairman of East West Seed Knowledge Transfer Foundation. Mr. Groot is online with us. I don't know if you'd like to say hello to us before we continue. Rutger, please. Can you say hi to us? You can unmute yourself. Okay, so maybe while he's unmuting, I think we'll just quickly take another question. A lot of people are asking for the presentation. If you would like this presentation, please send us your email address. You can send your telephone number and email address to the chat, and we'll be sure to send you a copy of the recording. There's a question from Bola Joda. It says, what soil is good for preparing for seedlings for Platinum F1 tomatoes?
All right. Okay. Yeah, talking about soil, right? I really don't know. There are improved way of raising quality seedlings, right? If you are doing in commercial basis, maybe ranging from 1 hectare upward, We don't really recommend ground nursery, right, for you to be able to do that, talking about soil, right? But if you are out to do and you want to do ground nursery, right, you go to sounding loam, like it's not too clay, it's not an heavy soil, with the pH ranging from 6.2 to 6.8, right? Around that pH, you can't really go wrong, but please don't go for heavy soil, right? And if it's need be, you need to do a raised bed precisely, then don't broadcast. There's a drilling process where you do line by line and don't sow thinly, don't sow densely, right? Don't allow that seedlings to be much, but improved way of raising, we call it cellular seedling production, where you see seedling trays is available. You see cocoa peat that is wash and buffer, that is not acidic. The pH can't go wrong, right? Then you see peat moss, and then you mix cocoa peat and peat moss in a ratio of 1:1. Then you fill it with your tray, and recommend the tray that you use. Please don't use tray that is at least economically maybe 128, right? Anything that is more than that, please, we don't recommend it to raise your seedlings, right? Then you keep them in a controlled environment, at least screen out some insects, at least permissibly maybe with nets, right? Make sure it's being guarded. Wi-Fi is not pecking on it, Alpha is not pecking on it, because this thing, they transfer viruses, and these guys are young, right? And virus does not show immediately after the plant contact virus. It might take about 3 weeks, some 6 weeks before you start noticing virus even in your plant. So if you don't take the seedling production important, you might just get it wrong along that area. So thank you.
Thank you, Dami. The next question is from agronomist Joe. He says he would like to know the variety of sweet pepper that would perform excellently in open field.
Right. What East West is being known for, our business is with this smallholder farmer, and there is not all smallholder farmer can manage or own a greenhouse, right? So majority of our variety, more than 98% of our variety that we will sell in Nigeria are grown open field. But for sweet pepper, it is tricky if you want more yield of that particular variety that will still perform in the open field. You can still grow them in greenhouses. I'm saying to say that all our sweet pepper variety can be grown outdoor. But if you want to get the more potential, right, the more potential yield, you can still introduce them in the greenhouses, and they'll still perform so well. So for dominant green, we have Mekong. For green to yellow, we have Nimada F1, right? Mekong F1. For green to red, we have Kalberry F1, right? And we see our OPV, right? Big size. Sweet pepper, but our advice is just go for the hybrid, right? But the OPV that we have, that's Ganga, is still performing very, very excellently. All right, thank you.
Thank you again, Dami. I think you should just sit there. This next question is, okay, there's somebody here that is really interested in the number of days. Actually, Julian asked 2 questions, and both of them relate to days. The first one is, how many days is the East-West okra seed? I think between planting and harvesting and that. And then the second question is, does East-West have any cabbage that you can harvest within 60 days? So okra and cabbage, the number of days.
All right, so for me, I'm a farmer and I do implanting. So I have PDS. PDS is their product development support. You will get the real answer, but the fat that will be stamped will come from PDS. I will still invite Abdul to come and answer this question. Abdul.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Dami. for the question, the numbers of days for okra, from transplanting, we normally count from transplanting to be 48 days from transplant. We don't count from sowing to transplant, but from transplant to the first harvest is 48 days. Answer that. And for the cabbage, yeah, it's a bit dicey in terms of weather condition. The East-West variety goes for 65 days to 75 days. And as well, we have a variety which has not been launched. Actually, it's still the baby in the pipeline. You can harvest at the days of from transplanting to first harvest around 50 days. They are the Copenhagen type, high round type, but yet we don't have it in the market. Yeah, those are it's the small head. If you know Copenhagen, it's high round kind of. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Abdul. And I think you should still sit there to take this next question, because Ifeoma Amuke is asking how long it takes to grow cucumber, and also if they are seedlings for home growers or are they commercial. So answer that. She says some of us need very little of these seeds for our cottages. Yes, Mrs. Amuke, you can get seedlings from VD&S Farmer Center, but I'd like Abdul to answer the question on the length of time it takes for you to plant and harvest the cucumbers. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, for days for cucumbers, it's also dicey, but in our catalog, you see it's 40 to 45 days. Well, I can assure you from 35, you can be harvesting your cucumbers. But basically, it's 45 days, 40 to 45 days. Thank you.
Thank you so much. If we have more questions, we can send to the chat. Okay, there's one from Fatima Zara. Can I practice direct sowing without going through the nursery practice for all types of seeds? So does she have to nurse all types of seeds? That's her question.
Yeah. Advisably, you should practice. And it also depends on the size of the seeds, but advisably, East-West preaches you do nursery before transplanting. And the essence of doing the nursery is really you need to and care for this. They are like babies. You don't just expose them to the harsh weather. So you need to nurse them. Like for instance, our boss used to tell us a baby giving birth to today is not being introduced to feed or food rather to swallow, but it's a gradual process. You introduce the seedlings gradually to the hazard on the field. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Abdul. Mr. Goods, I don't know if you'd like to say hello to us now before we continue. You can unmute. Okay, I don't know if you can hear me. Okay. Does East-West Seed sell North Platinum tomatoes or a contact where you can buy? You can get Ben Adeboye. You can put your contact in the chat and we'll contact you at VD&S Farmer Center. We sell seedlings. So you can get some Platinum F1 seedlings from us. I think we've taken all the questions. If you would like to be a part of this on our mailing list, you can please send your email address and your telephone number to the chat. We will send you the recording and then we'll inform you of upcoming webinars. I don't know if you would like to give us a final comment from the East-West team before we say our bye-byes. Hadiza, I think we've taken all the questions. Would you like to give a comment before we?
Okay, I think so far so good. Teaching farmers is what we know how to do best. We're known as the farmers champion. We listen to them closely. Our lines are always open on WhatsApp, on emails, even in the fields. If we know your fields, if we're passing by, we like to connect with our farmers. Just to say a big thank you to those that have joined this webinar. I think we are on this platform to educate each other and to connect with you. And we do it once in 2 months, bi-monthly webinars. So we assure you we're coming up with more interesting topics to better enhance your knowledge in vegetable farming skills. So kindly extend this invitation to those that are not able to make it. I look forward to see even more people on the platform. And I think the year is starting very slow. Last year, I think there was a time we had a traffic that we could not even admit all people. It was over 100 participants. So I'm excited to connect with farmers this year, with colleagues, with our distributor. We can only do more. We cherish and acknowledge all the farmers that are connected with East-West. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hadiza. And on behalf of VD&S Farmers Center, we say a very big thank you to our partners, Royal Blue Contractors and East-West Seed, and our speakers, Mr. Abdurrahman, Mr. Detola, and Mrs. Yaro, for once again enriching us with knowledge. We appreciate our sponsor, Know Your Farm Hands, and we appreciate you and say a very big thank you to you, great farmers, who have set out time to attend today's webinar. At VD&S Farmers Center, our aim is to positively impact farmers' lives and businesses, and we trust we have been able to add some value to you. For further questions and other clarifications, please contact us at info@vdsfarmsonline.com. Thank you and God bless you. We will still leave the Zoom on for a few minutes so that you can send your contact details if you would like to have the recording. Thank you.